There's my garden, Dad. And these are some of our blueberry bushes. Today is March 24, and you can see the blueberries are coming along really nicely. They might be ready in about 2 or 3 weeks. And this is Sherry's greenhouse. From this end we've got some potted roses and a little patch of onions there, tomatoes, and then behind the tomatoes there is some mature parsley. And then over here on the right we've got some young zucchini plants, and that's sage blooming there in the corner on the right. And this is the greenhouse from the other end. There's Sherry's stainless steel table where she does her little plants, puts the seeds in the seed growers. I can't remember what they're called anyway, these little plugs, I guess. And then she transplants them to bigger ones, and then transplants them again into the greenhouse itself. So there on the left we've got carrots and then Japanese radishes. Those are really good, and they grow really quite quickly. And then over here in the corner we've got thyme and then oregano, and then we got a row of green beans, and then over here we got more tomatoes on the closer, and further over I can't remember, I guess that's some kind of bean over there. And wow, the zucchini and the squash, yellow squash, is really coming along there. Well, that's a closer up view of the Japanese radish. These radishes are white, and they're about 10 times as big as the regular radish. And there's our zucchini, and that's either eggplant or okra down there further, just before you get to the sage. And there's our old wood stove that came from Canada. And we found that we really don't need to fire it up very often at all, because we put in, if we have cold tolerant plants like you know, greens and lettuce, then it can go down to as cold as about 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And even though the plants may freeze, they thaw out and they recover well. Down to, let's say 18. And in the greenhouse, of course, it stays warmer, but it gets into the high 20s, mid 20s, and the plants freeze, but at that temperature it doesn't harm them. And those are zipper peas down there. I've never seen zipper peas before, but anyway. And there's our row of blueberry bushes with the river in the back. And then further down we've got a couple cherry trees. They're hard to see from here. And then beyond there is the grapevine and kiwi and blackberry bushes that are behind the stairways there. We've only got one raised bed so far. At the end there is some mature spinach that's about to seed out. And then we got lettuce, different kinds of dark leaf and so on. And I think this is supposed to be broccoli up here. So here's a couple rows of sweet potatoes that are just sweet potato vines. You can grow them from, of course, seeds, you know, the sweet potatoes themselves, but it works better if you grow the vines and transplant the vines. And we've had problems with rabbits eating them, so these down here haven't been damaged. Some of the others have. We've been It's an ongoing fight with the rabbits. The deer have been good this year. And then, of course, the idea with the hay is to keep down the weeds and to trap in the moisture so we don't have to water nearly as much, and it also enriches the soil when it decomposes. So it's really good if you've got the hay to use that. And she's growing different kinds of melons and cucumbers and whatnot here. Then just outside the greenhouse here, this is lemon balm. And then on the other side here, this is peppermint. And behind the peppermint we got some dark leaf lettuce and then some regular lettuce next to the peppermint. And the lemon balm tastes kind of lemony. Well, we do finally have a few flowers planted there next to the steps. Those are black-eyed Susies that are coming up. And Simon says, "Let me out, let me out." And then underneath the porch, underneath the deck, we have a couple of, I think they're Concord grape vines growing there. And then further toward the end there, we had a couple that didn't survive the winter. And this is our little vineyard here. Different kinds of grapes, muscadine and scuppernong further up, and then we've got the more hardy northern varieties down here. Concord, and I believe one's called Edelweiss. And they're coming along really nicely. It looks like we're going to have a lot of grapes this year. Here's a few of the baby clusters coming right along. So, Dad, this is the garden here. And right down here on the edge, got some strawberries. Can see a couple of them are starting to ripen. This is May 24. So we'll have a few strawberries here for breakfast. Next to the strawberries, you can't see them very well, but there's a kind of a sparse row of giant sunflowers that are coming up. And then next to them, we've got this row of lima beans. And on the close end here, we got some corn that didn't germinate as well as we'd like. Not sure what the trouble there is with the gardener or with the seed. And then, we got a few rows of beans that are coming along and soybeans up here. And then next to them, we've got of course, the onions and then the potatoes. And the potatoes are doing really nicely. There are a couple spots there where the germination wasn't, they didn't come up, but generally they're doing really well. And here in the foreground here is a pear tree that's really doing nicely, and then beyond that is a jujube. It's got fruit that's kind of like an apple, but they're about the size of a big strawberry. They're the shape of a pecan nut, basically, and they look and they're brown, but the flesh is whitish like an apple's, and they're kind of unique. And different fruit trees here and there, plums, peaches, apples, cherries here off to the on the right, the taller ones, and then our row of blackberries, and here in the foreground we've got gooseberries. And you can see the gooseberries are coming along nicely too. I'd give them another 3 weeks maybe. There's a pear. This is some pears coming. We got a few more over here, and that's just some. This tree is going to do well this year. And this peach tree is really doing nicely too. Some growing immature fruit there. Here's another one down here. And that's our rototiller. And there's some of our wood supply. Oh, this is a day later in the morning, and this is a typical West Virginia morning with the fog lifting off of the New River. The reason I showed the rototiller the other day is that that rototiller isn't working. It was working to till up 3/4 of the garden, but the other quarter and all the hoeing and weeding since then have been by hand, and I'm really glad in a way that that happened. It's been a blessing to do it all by hand and get reconnected. And then I was just going to say the reason for showing you the wood, that's just a small part of what we burn every year. So that's a blessing too. That's an ongoing project, felling trees and blocking them and splitting them, and it's really good. So anyway, just want to say we love you, we're thinking about you, and we're going to say goodbye, and Simon's going to say goodbye too. Say goodbye, Simon. 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 Here. Simon says goodbye.